without even knowing the real story about the Confederate statue, I just knew that it wasn't a positive thing to my parents. And I, it's always been like a slap in the face.
And greetings, everyone, and welcome to Buzz for Good, where we talk all things nonprofit, the people they serve, and the good they do. And on today's show, we continue to celebrate Black History Month by talking with two women in Franklin County, one black and one white, who are working to remove the Confederate soldier statue in front of the Franklin County courthouse, and to honor the African Americans from Franklin County who fought for the Union during the Civil War. Working with the Franklin County NAACP and Virginia Tech, they hope to educate Franklin County citizens on the full story of the Civil War and slavery's pivotal role in it. But first, I am Michael Hemphill. I'm the creator and host of this show, as well as the TV show Buzz that airs every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on Blue Ridge PBS. Each episode, we feature a nonprofit organization and the great work that it does, and we partner the nonprofit with a team of creative marketing professionals affiliated with the American Advertising Federation of Roanoke, who donate their time and talent to help the nonprofit achieve more buzz. You can stay connected through Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, all at Buzz for Good, as well as our website, buzzforgood.com. That's Buzz, B-U-Z-Z, 4, good.com. I want to thank our sponsors, Friendship, a senior living community serving citizens of the Roanoke Valley, more at friendship.us, as well as Partners in Financial Planning, a Southwest Virginia-based financial management firm, partnersinfinancialplanning.com. And speaking of sponsors, before Buzz, I buzzed as the marketing director for Roanoke Catholic School. And one of my annual highlights was promoting the Shamrock Hill Run, which unfortunately got shut down in 2020 due to the pandemic. But I am thrilled to announce that the school is bringing it back this year, and I am honored that Buzz can be a sponsor. And so I invite you to come join the Shamrock Hill Run. It's one of Roanoke's, I would say, most beloved and luckiest races that gives you and your family a healthy, fun start to all of Roanoke's St. Patrick's Day festivities. It will be Saturday morning, March 16th at 9 a.m. The race registration through March 9th is just $20. After March 9th, it's $25. You can register all the way up to the morning of the race. Race t-shirts are guaranteed, though, for all who register by March 9th. And find out more information at roanokecatholic.com/Shamrock Hill. So that's what's coming up in March. But here in February, as I mentioned, we are honoring Black History Month by sharing the work of the Franklin County NAACP's Glenna Moore and Kathy Cummins, who are working to erect monuments, including a documentary produced by Buzz for Good, to memorialize the 70 African Americans who were born in Franklin County, who later served in the Union Army during the Civil War. Their work was inspired by the decision of government officials in Franklin County, Virginia, to keep in front of their public courthouse a statue of a Confederate soldier. Now, Virginia Tech recently received a $3 million grant from the Mellon Foundation to work in partnership with community groups across the Appalachian region of Virginia to create monuments to untold and unrepresented stories from the past. And Franklin County's NAACP hopes to receive a grant from this fund called the Monuments Across Appalachian Virginia, or MAAV. And here is my conversation with Glenna Moore and Kathy Cummins about their work. All right, I want to start with Glenna here because I think, Glenna, you are the inspiration behind what all is going on here in Franklin County in terms of the Confederate soldier monument in front of the Franklin County courthouse. And so if you would you mind just kind of sharing your background with, Franklin County, your life story, and how you got involved with this project?
Well, I am a Franklin County native, born in 1952 on one of the Black streets in Rocky Mount.
Okay.
My parents were educators, and I was one of the first to integrate Franklin County schools. I
Mm,
was in junior high in 1965 during freedom of choice,
okay.
and was then at the high school level. I graduated in 1970 and attended Norfolk State College at that time, and I earned a graduate degree from Virginia Tech in urban affairs. Married a soldier, and we enjoyed 25 years. I think I enjoyed them better than he. 25 years of military travel, 13 uh, movements, and we have three sons, two live here, one in Minnesota. Um, I was inspired by for this movement by a young man, Henry Turnage, who one day um, just started walking around the Confederate statue. And one of my sons came to our house and said, "Guess what Henry's doing?" And he was, it was awesome. And it happened actually at a time when I had done some research. My husband and I retired from Franklin County Public Schools in 2013. And after retirement, I started doing some local research. And when Turnage was going around that Confederate statue, it was right after I had just learned about United States colored troops who were soldiers who were born in Franklin County. So I was really excited about sharing that information. In fact, when I learned about them, I was wondering, how in the world can I disseminate this information? This is powerful.
Hmm.
Because I was thinking about me in history classes in junior high school and hearing the lost cause, philosophy, and just not feeling empowered. And so I thought, wow, I would really have felt good about myself, my people, if I had known this.
You mentioned lost cause, and we were talking about this particular Confederate statue in front of the Franklin County Courthouse. And I think some people have this misconception of, when these statues went up. A lot of people think, okay, this was done, right after the Civil War ended, and we are just honoring all of those, friends, brothers, fathers, who fought in the war and, perhaps died during the war. Really, this statue, when did it go up?
1910, is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Right,
Uh,
right. So 45 years later. Wait, so what's that about?
Well, I did not know the ins and outs of that statue going up. I just knew when I was growing up, my parents never spoke of it positively.
Hmm.
And they didn't go into details, but I read Karen Cox's book, um, and that told me, exactly, how we happen to have all of these Confederate statues in throughout the South.
Hmm.
So that was helpful for me to learn. Um, I also, in my research, I learned about the women who erected it in Franklin County, and
Hmm.
that was interesting. So that was something else that I wanted to share with our community.
Right, right. Because yeah, again, these seem to be more not no as much in memory, but more like in defiance of where the country or people thought the country was heading. And so, really kind of enforcing Jim Crow laws, you know, to make sure that uh, this particular mythology, the lost cause, was kind of like redefining what the Civil War was all about.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that local citizens don't really believe that.
Hmm.
Uh, they don't see the negative in the statues
Right.
because they were not taught that there's anything negative about Southern history and those statues.
Right.
So
Right.
to me, that's one of the missions we have.
Hmm.
In fact, Henry Turnage thought that he could educate the community. about the truth, around these Confederate statues. And so he attended Board of Supervisors meetings and gave the 3-minute comments. And he included a lot of history. So did a lot of other young people, white and black, I think in the 30s and 40s age range. But it didn't really seem to make a difference with our Board of Supervisors. And so they put it up for a vote as to whether the statue should be moved or not. And about 70% of our county said that it should not be moved from the courthouse lawn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the young people like Henry became discouraged.
Sure.
And now I don't know if Kathy's seeing the same thing, but they really don't want to I think engage in anything here anymore. They're just disgusted. But I think that I know these folks who are so convinced that the statue is good, but they don't know the history of the statue and they don't know the history of African Americans in Franklin County. So
Yeah.
I decided that that's what I would do. I would share our local Black history.
Well, once again, we're joined here on Buzz for Good by Glenna Moore, who we've been listening to, describing her history in Franklin County as a Black woman growing up through the years and engaging with this history as it pertains to the Confederate soldier statue in front of the Franklin County Courthouse. And now we're going to turn a little bit here to Kathy Cummins, who is also on the Franklin County NAACP, who is white but feels, was inspired by this story to be in the organization and also to try to see what could be done to shape that history today through a particularly cool Mellon Foundation grant opportunity. So, Kathy, how did you first learn about this and why did you want to get involved?
I first met Glenna when she started this initiative in 2020 and joined her briefly and got to know her family. But I too got discouraged. And when I retired, I reconnected with Glenna early this year. It's in 2023. It's been a year now. And I said, Glenna, I want to come back. Would you take me back? And so I've enjoyed long hours in the kitchen of Mr. and Mrs. Moore, talking and sharing information. They've taught me a lot. And I got wind of the Mellon Foundation's initiative. The Mellon Foundation is spending $500 million across this country supporting monuments to underrepresented groups and individuals. So when it became apparent that they had subdivided that money and given it to Virginia Tech, $3 million to Virginia Tech, to look at community projects in this area, I took advantage of that and proposed the NAACP that we apply for a grant project and put up a monument to the USCT soldiers from Franklin County. And along with that, we also want to create a unique monument. We want to make public conversation a monument. So we are going to conduct a charrette, a community forum that carefully planned, that invites the community to have these discussions and an invitation to really learn the true history of Franklin County, Black and white, and come to some understanding. The topic of monuments is important. The Mellon Foundation, working with Monument Lab, says that monuments are statements of power and presence in public. And the Confederate monument erected in 1910 in front of the courthouse is making a statement of power and presence that we no longer feel is appropriate in our community. And I don't really think it represents the community today. And I think it needs to be relocated. I feel so very strongly about that fact. another thing the Monument Lab says is that monuments are arguments about what's important.
Mhm.
And so we need to bring the community together to have that conversation. So it's a long, big project with lots of planning involved, and we are excited to be finalists in this competition to erect this monument. So we're working together, the NAACP and the community, trying to make sure we can have this happen.
I think we can identify what to me is a perfect place for the monument. I would like to see it broken down into 3 parts in the High Street Cemetery. The High Street Cemetery has always been an all-white cemetery.
Mm.
And it is where the United Daughters of the Confederacy would dress up in, 1800s garb and lay a wreath at the grave sites of Confederate soldiers. And it's where a lot of United Daughters of the Confederate members are buried. So I think it could get, the respect that they say they want, all soldiers need to be respected.
Right. You're talking about this is where you think the Confederate soldier statue should go.
Yes. I'm
Gotcha.
sorry. That's
Yeah,
exactly
right.
right. Yes.
But what about the because that would be a more perhaps historical setting to commemorate that part of history rather than in front of the Franklin County Courthouse.
Right.
Glenna, Ms. Moore, what does it say to you as a Black woman that there's a statue to a Confederate soldier in front of the Franklin County Courthouse?
It's always been offensive to me. And, I did not, without even knowing the real story about the Confederate statue, I just knew that it wasn't a positive thing to my parents. And it's always been like a slap in the face. And especially as I learned the history, it just doesn't make sense to me that it should remain there.
And what's the problem with it being there?
Because I have 3 Black sons. And to me, for them to have to go past that statue into the courthouse to expect justice is just not right. And I also know personally, having just sat in the courthouse for different reasons, sometimes NAACP would go to court cases just to have a presence. But anyway, I would sit there and I would look around the walls and see pictures of white judges from the past. And it's just everything about that just takes away your confidence that you'll get fair justice.
Right. You don't feel as though justice is blind in that situation.
Right.
when there's no one there who looks like you or is someone like you who is celebrated in the form of a statue. Yeah.
That we don't want to add another statue in front of the courthouse. I mean, we want the Confederate one, ultimately the community to decide that it should be moved, and we don't want to reenact the Civil War in front of the courthouse. Yeah. But the town does have a Veterans Memorial Park. And so, and it's a good place for the USCT statue because there is a monument there that names Confederate soldiers, but no Union soldiers are named or recognized. And there were Union soldiers from Franklin County.
Yeah. Well, once again, joined here on Buzz for Good by Glenna Moore, a former educator, military wife, and Franklin County native who is now back in Franklin County, working with the Franklin County NAACP to find a new home for the Confederate soldier statue that is currently located in front of the Franklin County Courthouse, and to provide and to erect a statue to the United States Colored Troops from Franklin County, as well as we're joined here by Kathy Cummins, who is also on the Franklin County NAACP. and is working to create a monument to this untold history about colored troops from Franklin County fighting for the Union during the Civil War. Kathy, share a little bit more about this proposal and kind of where it stands with the Mellon Foundation, through the Virginia Tech.
Well, right now we sailed past phase one. We were selected as a finalist. There was a lot of competition. There's some excellent projects proposed. I'm presuming I'm aware of a few. It was a very collaborative effort, and we worked on the proposal with input from a lot of community leaders and knowledgeable people on the topic. So now we are working on phase two. We are having to finalize our budget, identify leadership roles, and really lay out a plan for how we're going to move forward. So we are scrambling. This is due on March 4th. And we will know in early to mid-April whether we do win a grant award, and it's substantial. Our budget is approaching $300,000. We are excited to have people really interested in supporting it. So we're busy every day making connections and drawing this out on big pieces of paper and pulling this together. So that's where we are right now. We're scrambling, and then we're going to be holding our breath for a month.
And there are three kind of major components to this.
There is.
You've got the statue that you want created, in honor of the U.S. colored troops.
Right.
From County. Let's start with that. Tell us about that.
All right. In order to learn about Confederate statues, I first asked how much does it cost to take one down anyway? What are we asking the county to do? So I put in a phone call to Team Henry Enterprises. Team Henry is the engineering firm that has participated in taking down and relocating, taking down Confederate statues. They do not put them back up anywhere. Someone else has to do that. But they are located in Richmond. The president is Mr. Devon Henry, and he was very responsive. And talking to his operations manager, Patrick Lindsay, we started a conversation about the USCT statue and what that would take. And as we prepared our budget, they're asked, do I have an artist? And we had a lot of things going, but the timeline is approaching. So he put me in touch with Mr. Paul De Pasquale. This is the sculptor and the artist that has done another number of works with whom you are familiar. The King Neptune statue, the Arthur Ashe statue, a bust of Martin Luther King and of Oliver Wells. So I had long conversations with Paul, now on the first name basis with a famous sculptor, but he's a wonderful gentleman, and he's helping me put together a budget that we can afford and be our artist. Largely, he'll be donating much of his time and talent. And so that's a real thrill to have somebody like that want to do the project, want to see this project happen, that he's willing to do this for us. We hope to do the research so we can confirm all the 70 names of the United States colored troops. In fact, today I'm connecting with a professor at Virginia Tech who's going to volunteer her students to help us with this research. Wonderful. So that's what's really exciting, is that as we talk about this and share plans and ask questions, more and more people are coming on board to support the project. So that's what we're thinking about. We want something that will display the humanity of a Union soldier coming from Franklin County. And the fact that these Black soldiers were not just fighting for preservation of the Union, they certainly were, but for their very own freedom and their own civil rights. And we want to make that clear.
All right, so that's the statue. And then there's also the Buzz for Good documentary that we hope to be able to produce that will capture all of this history, as well as the statue. But also there's this charrette, which is a word that maybe a lot of people aren't familiar with. So What's happening with this charrette?
Well, it will be the most complicated part of our project. It will be a day-long event, and it may need to extend to a second day that will work on that. We will be able to be working with college professors to help advise us, and local historians, and historians from other places who are making connections to build a curriculum. We will have a location at the 4-H Center on Smith Mountain Lake. There's a large room for the whole group to gather. We hope to have at least 200 participants from the community. We will have breakout discussions and lectures on different aspects of the history of Franklin County from 1850, prior to the Civil War, up through the Civil War, all the way to 1910. When the original Confederate monument was put up in front of the courthouse, to explain what it was like to live here and the real history behind why that monument went up.
Well, one last time, joined here on Buzz for Good by Glenna Moore and Kathy Cummins with the Franklin County, Virginia NAACP, as they are working to hopefully receive a $300,000 approximate grant through a couple of Virginia Tech professors who have received a $3 million grant from the Mellon Foundation to erect monuments throughout Appalachia that tell underrepresented stories. And the one that Glenna and Kathy here are working on is to tell the story about U.S. colored troops from Franklin County who fought for the Union during the war, kind of in response to the powers that be in Franklin County refusing to remove the Confederate soldier statue in front of the Franklin County courthouse. Best case scenario in your mind, what happens after all of this work is done?
I have 5 grandchildren and 6. I'll have a young one now. But I want them to be taught the true story about their ancestors. And I want them to realize something that I didn't, that African Americans fought for their own freedom, during the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that we end up with a whole community who will now know the truth, a truer story, a more fuller story about the Civil War and about Franklin County's participation in it.
How does that understanding of the past shape then our present and future?
Well, I think it will empower us all. Certainly, it will empower our young people. Even I think it will even help to encourage young African Americans to come back to Franklin County. They tend to leave after high school, and I'm concerned that what I see on Facebook is that a lot of young folks, African Americans in their 30s and 40s, are calling Franklin County a racist community, a racist county, and that's concerning. So I'm hoping that we can sort of change that.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there's still a racial divide. And our country is increasingly aware that it still exists, and there's efforts to cover that up, but those will never succeed unless the truth is recognized. True history, all complete history, is out there, understood, and appreciated by everybody. That the truth has to be acknowledged, and until that happens, repair can't begin.
Kathy Cummins and Glenna Moore with the Franklin County NAACP, thanks so much for joining us here on Buzz for Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, and that will do it for today's Buzz for Good. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please continue to stay connected with us throughout the week on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, all at Buzz for Good, BUZZ 4 Good, as well as our website, buzzforgood.com. Hope you have a wonderful week and continue being a Buzz for Good in your community. Bye now.